Hebrews chapter 9. Now the first covenant had regulations for worship and also an earthly sanctuary. A tabernacle was set up in its first room where the lampstand and the table with its consecrated bread. This was called the holy place. Behind the second curtain was a room called the most holy place, which had the golden altar of incense and the gold-covered ark of the covenant. This ark contained the gold jar of manna, Aaron's staff that had budded, and the stone tablets of the covenant. Above the ark were the cherubim of glory overshadowing the atonement cover. But we cannot discuss these things in detail now. When everything had been arranged like this, the priest entered regularly into the outer room to carry on with their ministry. But only the high priest entered the most holy place, and that only once a year, and never without blood, which he offers for himself and for the sins the people committed in ignorance. This is why ignorance. The Holy Spirit was showing by this that the way into the most holy place has not yet been disclosed as long as the first covenant was still functioning. This is the illustration of the present time, indicating that gifts and sacrifices being offered were not able to clean the conscience of the worshipper. They are only a matter of food and drink and various ceremonial washings, external regulations applying until the time of the new order. When Christ came as high priest of the good things that are not already here, he went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle. That is, greater and more perfect tabernacle. That is not made with human hands, that is to say, is not part of this creation. It did not enter by means of the blood of goats and cows, but he entered the most holy place once for all by his own blood, thus obtaining eternal redemption. The blood of the goats and bulls and ashes of a heifer sprinkled on those who are ceremonically unclean is sanctified so that they are outwardly clean. How much more then will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offers himself unblemished to God, cleanse our consciences of our action that leads to death, so that we may serve the living God. This is why Christ is the mediator of a new covenant, that those who are called may receive the promised eternal inheritance. Now that he died as a ransom to set them free from the sins committed under the first covenant. In the case of a will, it is necessary to prove the death of the one who made it. For a will is in force only when somebody has died, and never takes effect when the one who made it is living. This is why when the first covenant was not put into effect without blood. When Moses proclaimed the covenant of the laws to all people, he took the blood of the cows with the water, scarlet wool and branches of hyssop, and sprinkled the scroll and all the people. He said, "This is the blood of the covenant which God commanded you to keep." In the same way, he sprinkled both the tabernacle and everything used in his ceremonies. In fact, the law requires that nearly everything to be cleansed with blood. Everything be cleansed with blood. And without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. It is necessary then for the copies of heavenly things to be purified with these sacrifices, but the heavenly things themselves with sacrifice with better sacrifices than this. For Christ did not enter a sanctuary made with human hands that is only a copy of the true one. He entered the heaven itself, now to appear for us in God's presence. Christ did not enter heaven to offer himself again and again, as the way the high priest enters the most holy place every year with blood that is not his own. Otherwise, Christ would have had to suffer many times since the creation of the world. But he appeared once for all at the culmination of the ages to do away with sin. By the sacrifice of himself. Just as people are destined to die once and after that to face judgment, so Christ was sacrificed once to save many, and he will appear a second time, not to pardon sins, but to bring salvation to those who are waiting for him.